rewind and talk to us about how you got here, how the city came to realize there was a need for a new approach?
To the new city manager's credit, he came up with this sort of hybrid idea that let's elevate the environment, but not just about the environment, because resiliency and sustainability are not just environmental issues. As you know, it's the cultural and social equity issues and economic issues, as well as the environmental issues, but the environment drives it. So he wanted to elevate it to the city manager's office level, and with a sort of dotted line down to all the departments, so that the person, that person is thought to be me, in that position would be able to work directly with the department directors and office managers on anything and everything resilience and sustainability related.
When does this position go online?
So if the legislation passes through City Council and it's funded through the budget, it doesn't have to go through the budget process. It could run on a different track, but more importantly, it has to get through City Council. So the thought was that it would come online, as you put it, directly in line when the budget has to pass, and that has to be passed by June 30th. This position does not contemplate any changes to the budget to make it happen, and we designed that so it would just be, it would not require any additional funding of new positions.
So you're going to hypothetically transition into this role.
Right, and the thought was I would take one of my staff members who's the environmental program coordinator along with me to support me in my efforts.
Presuming that this goes through, what's your first priority in your new role?
Well, my first priority will be working, and I'm already doing this, so it'll be just to continue my effort, but making sure that resilience and sustainability initiatives are included in our comprehensive plan, the 2020 plan. And that's some of the issues identified for the comp plan, are making sure that we preserve our green spaces and our green open spaces. And it's important for resiliency planning to buffer our shorelines, provide those forest buffers to retain stormwater and filter pollutants, and buffer our creeks and waterways. So from whole resiliency and environmentalist perspective, it's important. It's, our forests are our carbon sinks, and and they filter stormwater and trap pollutants, all those health benefits as well. But it's also about providing the mental health benefits for the community and the recreation benefits. And we're all realizing, especially right now, how important our green spaces are and our parks are. It's one of the few things people can get out and do safely right now during the COVID crisis. So, when you have a situation like this, it really brings to light how important these spaces are. But we started working, I think I mentioned, we worked on a resiliency plan. We worked with Environmnetal and the University of Maryland. The whole staff did on identifying where we had resilience opportunities and where we had challenges, and what we would want to see going into resiliency plan. So now we have to take that work we did over the last 2 quarters of 2019 and the beginning of 2020 and develop a resilience plan. We don't have one in Annapolis yet. And we also need to develop a sustainability plan. So
are there things that the city can do right off the bat that contributes to the resiliency of the
I think so. I think this comp plan 2020 is a great opportunity. I think we need to be really preserving green spaces, especially waterfront. And I know that's not popular with developers, especially, and a lot of people. They want to develop that waterfront, but they really are our buffer, and they are very important to erosion, which affects our water quality and habitat and ecological systems, but also it's our stormwater filtration system. We're going to continue to lose shoreline, which means we lose areas for people to live, and it's really going to start creeping up in the next 20 years as more and more shoreline erodes. So I think we can do that now. We can put that right in our comp plan, that we're going to, if you look at some of the, I'm sure you're familiar with smart cities and smart towns. I think the smart towns approach, and make a very good point in the book that Chuck wrote, is that we need to focus on what we have now, rather than continuing to build out. Because we should focus on improving the infrastructure we have in place, and the places we have in place, which are in Annapolis very nice. And we are taking that approach with regard to City Dock. We're improving upon our stormwater system. We're putting in our pumping stations so that we preserve that downtown, which is very important to the city, not just from an aesthetic perspective and maritime perspective, but it's history that will be lost forever if we don't do something to save it. And it's a pretty unique collection of buildings. It's the largest collection of 18th century brick structures in the country. So that's a pretty amazing thing to have. And it's not just Williamsburg. They're actively being used for businesses and for residents. That's really kind of unique in a lot of places. The biggest thing we can do to deal with the carbon dioxide issue is affecting our transportation, because we don't have a lot of industry in Annapolis, but we do drive around a lot. So supporting the electric drive vehicles with charging stations. We have a partnership with BG&E. We've put in several of them already, several more we're working with at the county libraries and at public schools. But I've identified several other, probably 6 or 7 other locations in Annapolis to put in charging stations. Alderman Savage just recently introduced legislation for parking penalties for reserved spaces to support that initiative. And we're looking to change our city fleet over to alternative fuel vehicles, especially with priority giving to electric. So that's something the city can do and encourage residents and support them in their efforts to go green and reduce their emissions. Also, the city did an audit of all of its operating systems a couple of years ago, and we have last year completed implementing all our energy efficiency initiatives. So we now will need to measure, we're doing a greenhouse gas emissions inventory right now. And hopefully we'll have it done later this spring, early summer, to see where we've made improvements already, where we are capturing a lot of carbon monoxide and other emissions, and then what goals we could set. And we're setting up through our finance department how to track them. So we can take an action right now, and we are, to reduce our emissions. And then we have our solar park, which is doing well. And I know the county and the city are interested in looking how we can bring in more solar. And maybe down the road, we can bring in wind. On the pollution front, we are getting ready to build a composting facility so that we can have a compost collection. We just have to have mass. That was the biggest impediment. But now that we have identified a site for doing it, that will probably building that site will probably get underway either late this year or beginning of next year. This whole pandemic has delayed a lot of infrastructure type of projects. The city obviously is looking at ways where we can cut costs, and we have to prioritize what we're doing right now. But the old Annapolis landfill is where we will be putting the composting facility.
Right. Well, Jackie, this has been great primer. It's very exciting what you all are planning.
I'm excited about it too, and it's great working with this mayor because he understands the importance of the environment and all our resilience and sustainability work across so many important issues. But he also understands the urgency. Like, the time to act is now. We're a little bit behind actually, and we need to do some catching up quickly.